Warning: the following contains spoilers for the anime and manga of Hunter x Hunter. If you have not read the manga or seen the anime, I highly encourage you to indulge yourself first before watching this video. Watch at your own risk. From the very beginnings of the Chimera Ant arc, there has always been this idea of careful planning. We can see how the hunters methodically pick apart every detail within their mission parameters in order to achieve a scenario in which victory is assured. There is never a stone unturned, and all are willing to compromise their own values and pride, to a certain extent, to make sure the plan is followed accordingly. This idea of needing to have a rigid, tough outer shell can be best seen with Isaac Netero. He is given many opportunities by Meruem to forego his own logic and reasoning to see alternative solutions. However, due to his role in the mission and a strict set of self-imposed rules, his resolve does not falter, driving him further towards his own destiny. While this can be said for most of the characters in this arc, there is one character who stands out from among the rest. One character that challenges the objectives of the mission and approaches the situation with ethical reasoning rather than a systematic slaughter of all the Chimera Ants, an outlier in a sea full of unbending wills. This hunter is none other than Knucklebine. When faced with the ethics of the mission, Knuckle ultimately accepts the fact that some of the ants will have to be killed in order to preserve his own life and the life of his comrades.
コルトはいいやつだ。メレオロンもイカルゴもいいハートを持ってる。人とかアリとか関係ねえ。ハートがねえやつなんていねえ。そう思いたい。できれば王とも。けど、問答無用でやらなきゃ奴らは止められねえ。やらなきゃやられる。
The burdens that this mission comes with weighs heavily on his other duties as a beast hunter. Knuckle enjoys spending his time discovering new creatures and interacting with them in order to achieve a better understanding. This can be seen in multiple scenes where he is caring for animals that have gone stray, or to better understand Gon and Killua's motives for joining the task force. Initially seen as some snot-nosed brats, he later discovers that their mentor, Kite, had fallen into a chain of undesirable circumstances at the hands of the Chimera Ants. Knuckle deems their motives as honorable and trains the boys with this tough guy facade, all while dropping them subtle hints of his true intentions to help them grow stronger. Knuckle is shown to have a big heart with plenty of room for compassion and understanding. This can even be seen in his Nen ability, called Chapter 7 Bankruptcy. It is an extremely versatile Nen ability in combat that essentially nullifies any damage to either fighter, along with sharing his own aura, until the opponent has more aura than they can repay, leaving their aura reserves depleted and putting them into a state of Zetsu. Knuckles shows that his goals were never strictly revolved around violence, but rather as a means of resolving violence in a thoughtful manner. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and relies on his character to guide his decision-making to help others, ultimately following what he believes to be the virtuous path. However, his kind-hearted nature puts strain on the mission that takes place during the palace invasion. His intentions ultimately oppose the rules and parameters set on the extermination force. He wants to give the ants the opportunity to be heard and seen as something more than just monsters, not worthy of life. To assume that there is a heart buried somewhere deeply under the exoskeleton, waiting for somebody to listen. He wishes to believe in the good that the ants may have. Considering that they are partially human, this leads to the assumption that they must have also inherited some form of human emotions. While some of the hunters take on more monstrous forms throughout the series, such as Gone Freaks, Knuckle always leans back towards his emotions, grounding him to his own sense of humanity. This can be seen in several instances, where he favors his own emotional state as the roots for his decision-making over the lives of millions. During an intense battle with Yuppie, Shoot is gravely injured, slumped over in total defeat. Even though he gave his best effort, Yuppie showed no interest in his feat. Instead of giving some sort of acknowledgement, the royal guard looks upon him as if he were no greater than a worm in the dirt. Shoot now understood that he was not only going to die, but die with the humiliation of knowing his opponent looked him in the eye and didn't even utter a word or deliver the final blow. This chain of events ultimately breaks Shoot, and we get a glimpse into his emotional state. We see that there is more than a cold, calculated man beneath the surface. Understanding what has transpired, this enrages Knuckle to the point of, briefly, abandoning the mission for the sake of mending his friend's broken pride. He vows that he will get a punch-in for himself, and a punch-in for Shoot, as to come to peace with what he understood had transpired. It was his only solution to solving his dilemma at hand, even if it put the lives of millions at risk. Instead of waiting for APR to accumulate interest, Knuckle jumps into action. In the grand scheme of the mission, this was a poor decision, as with one attack from Yuppie could have ended Knuckles' life in the worst case scenario. If this were to have occurred, Knuckle would have greatly impacted his friend's life with his loss. They would have also been put at a significant disadvantage without his Nen ability, drastically reducing their chances for success. His role was just as important of a role as anyone else's, and he had a duty to uphold his obligation. Despite all these objective truths, he rejects the logic of the mission in favor for what his conscience was driving him towards, to ultimately help his friend. In his own heart, he believes that some things are too difficult to ignore, and action must be taken. While many hunters are driven to use their Nen abilities to better satisfy their own needs, Knuckle rejects this model of thinking. Following this model would completely destroy all sense of who he is as a hunter and as a friend, both of which are incredibly valuable to him. He carries these convictions to his most questionable, yet most impactful part of the arc. He decides to abandon the mission in order to deactivate APR and save the life of his master, Morel. His decision is made after hearing Yuppie acknowledge their efforts and ensure that Morel's death would be quick. Knuckle comes full circle and understands that there is more to Chimera Ants than sheer malice. Since he has always remained true to himself and his reliance on his emotional state, he does not see this particular ant as one that needs to die. He can no longer see him as a foe to destroy. Beyond his interactions with Ikalgo and Melioron, he has finally made some form of genuine connection to other ants. His fantasy of understanding the emotion of his enemies had finally been realized in this brief, yet impactful moment in the story. He was arguably one of the only characters in this arc that did indeed see this as a possibility, and ultimately hope for it to become a reality. Through the sequence of events that take place after this encounter with Yuppie, we see that there is a lot of humanity dwelling within the ants, particularly the Ant King's relationship he had with Komugi, which turned everything he knew upside down. Meruem embraced the possibility that there are, in fact, many human lives worth sparing, and that it is not up to him to make these cold, calculated decisions. Knucklebine may have ultimately had the most accurate foresight going into this mission, despite the doubt Netero had in bringing him along. In the end, it was his grounded sense of humanity and emotions through his actions that helped him maintain his integrity for why he fights. His unique perspective prevails throughout the rest of the series and challenges conventional thinking in a way that reflects his own character rather than his cognitive abilities. Knuckle is one of the few lights that continues to shine brightly throughout this darkness, and gives us a sense of balance to all the tragedy and misfortunes that occur. If any character in anime would be one to aspire to, I would make the strong argument for Knucklebine. Before I go, I just wanted to say that I've been wanting to do a Hunter x Hunter video for a long time now. I knew that a full dive into the entire series would make for a very long video. I compromised with doing an analysis of one of my favorite characters, Knucklebine. I plan to do more Hunter x Hunter content in the future. If this is something you would like and would enjoy seeing more of, please let me know in the comments. Big shout out to some amazing Twitch streamers, which I will also link below. That being Adam_Uber, CasualDistractions, and WMan1011. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.